No, I don't think so. What I tried to do is state the obvious. We live in a rule of law nation in America. You don't hear much about it in the European media, but conservatives in America, mainstream people, I consider myself to be a mainstream conservative, is having a hard time explaining what's happening to Republicans in terms of our legal system. For about 2 years, we were told that Trump was a Russian agent. The Mueller investigation was going to imminently show that President Trump's campaign and himself were hooked up to the Russian intelligence community and a economy. And when it was all said and done, the people investigating Trump were rebuked by the FISA court for altering evidence. An FBI lawyer was disbarred because he took the warrant application and altered it. It turned out to be a bunch of BS. The tactics used by the FBI to investigate Trump were such that they wanted to get him and they ignored all the stop signs. The Russian information given to back the warrant was disavowed by the source of the warrant. It was all bar talk, and that never made it to the court. Hunter Biden, I do like Joe Biden. He's a fine man. I don't think he's been a particularly good president. But in October, for 2020, the New York Post had this explosive story about a Hunter Biden laptop that had some pretty damaging stuff apparently on it. 50 intel experts wrote a letter saying this is all Russian disinformation, don't believe it. The FBI called up Facebook and other social media outlets. This story shouldn't be trusted. It emanates from Russia. So it really died. It turns out now that the laptop did belong to Hunter Biden, and that the people involved in the FBI who were spreading the narrative that it was Russian disinformation are the same people that investigated Trump. Hillary Clinton. I know her. I've worked with her well. When she was Secretary of State, she set up a server in her basement completely out of the norm of what a Secretary of State would do to communicate, to get around the classification system. 33,000 emails were requested by the investigators that suddenly disappeared. And at the end of the day, nothing happened to her. So here's what I said. If the raid on President Trump's home, the likely nominee for 2024, better bear some fruit here. If it's just about mishandling classified information, we've had a standard set when it came to Hillary Clinton. Our country, people on our side, believe that when it comes to the justice system, there are no rules regarding Trump. Get him, it doesn't matter how you get him. So I said, if it's similar to what happened to Clinton and he gets prosecuted, it will be one of the most disruptive events in America. I reject violence on January the 6th. All those people who defile the Capitol, they should go to jail. I reject violence in New York through Black Lives Matter. Vice President Harris bailed out the rioters. I don't want to pardon the January 6 people because that seems to reinforce the narrative this is okay. I said something I really believe. If he does what she did with classified information and he gets prosecuted and she didn't, it will create a problem.
But under no circumstances, and I think you've answered that, but I'm going to ask one more time, under no circumstances is any violence, whether it's from Democrat supporters or Republican supporters or conservatives, as you mentioned, and concerns that they have, violence is unacceptable under any level.
Violence is unacceptable, but how do countries fracture? How do countries fracture? When a group of people believe, fascist states have one thing in common. They used the state and the law as a tool of their agenda, not to get just outcomes. So what I worry about, being a guy who supported the Mueller investigation, I actually introduced legislation that he could not be dismissed until he was through, because as much as I like Trump, it seemed to me they had a reason to be looking at him. And when it was shown to be mostly manufactured, manipulated, and twisted, that set in motion a trust deficit. So, raiding the president's home is unprecedented in our country. We'll see what happens. Give the investigators a chance to make their case. But in my view, it's got to be something that shows there's not a double standard.
But, sir, and my final question on this point. If they are top secret documents, highly classified documents, and they were in his office and not in a storage facility, the president shouldn't have had those, should he, sir?
Yeah, so I said that with Clinton. You shouldn't have a server in your basement.
But you agree that Mr. Trump shouldn't have had those documents?
I believe in handling classified information in a responsible way. But what happened in the Clinton case, there was some information that wound up on Anthony Weiner's computer. Okay, no, she wasn't prosecuted. The point of the matter is, mishandling classified information is really bad, but we can't have a system where one person gets prosecuted and the other person doesn't at the highest. She was the Secretary of State, about to run for president herself.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm saying.